I'm going to now bring in the next great guru of our day, syncretism, the godfather, the man himself, Santos Bonacci. Santos, delighted to have you here, brother.
Thank you very much, Sacha, and thank you for putting on such a great event with guys that I've been following for many, many years. I interviewed Dan Winter in 2013 on American Freedom Radio. Everyone loved it. And I just said to Brooks before the show that I've been following him since 2007. In fact, I used to listen to his tapes. I had a tape player in my car, and I'd just be inspired off to work, street performing, being inspired by Brooks. So this is nice for me. This is a treat. I respect these guys and love them. And yeah, I'm very happy that I've been invited. Thank you.
Well, curiously enough, I'm in Cancun now. Where exactly are you?
I'm in Puerto Morelos, just 20 minutes south of Cancun.
Great, and we're going to be seeing you next week on the island, Isla Mujeres. Greatly looking forward to that next week. Santos, how do you want to play this? Do you want to share your screen, or do you want me to do it for you?
Yep, I'm sharing already.
Okay, so I'm going to bring your screen in.
First of all, I want to clarify what my model is, which has always been. I've always used the Ptolemaic model. Ptolemy is the most famous astrologer who ever lived. And in his model, which the Egyptians, the Mayans, and the Hindus, and in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, talks about the Earth being a bhumandala, which means it's a horizontal stationary plane. Planet means it's a plane. And my model is, according to the Egyptians, all is atum. So my model is the atomic model. From the microcosm through the meso to the macrocosm, all is this. There are only torus fields, electromagnetic torus fields, and Ken Wheeler calls them reciprocating precessional hyperboloid torus fields. So the hyperbola is the sphere in the middle, and the torus is the sphere on the outside. And according to the ancients, we live in this big, massive sphere. Up here, they call this the firmament. In the second day of creation in the Bible, it says God created this firmament. We're going to have a look at that firmament in a minute. And in the center here, this is the North Pole, and this is the plane of inertia. Plane of inertia corresponds to planet of Eartha. Inertia and Earth are the same thing, and plane and planet are the same thing. So I just want to show this is how they had it. Here is the day. The sun is an anode. The moon is a cathode. And as the sun turns clockwise over the Earth, even though its yearly rotation is counterclockwise, as it goes through the ether over the Earth like a chandelier, thank you, Bhagavad Gita, this massive chandelier centered by Polaris at the top where Brahma lives. Brahma has breathed these bubbles of creation into the hydrogen universe that we live in. So there are waters above and waters below, as the Bible says, and below this Earth, it's hollow. So the Earth is definitely hollow. You can prove that in a million different ways. So Polaris is here, it never moves, even though supposedly we're doing 650 million miles of displacement along a velocity vector through the universe. Every hour, 650 million miles, Polaris still seems to be there for 450,000 years of Egyptian astrological and astronomical record keeping. And the same old stars, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, etc., keep turning up in the same shape, in the same luminosity for 450,000 years of recorded history. And if you're a God believer, I'd be very disappointed in God. I'd give him the sack, because we should be seeing random stars every day. But if you're a Big Bang Theory guy, I would still be really pissed off at Lemaitre, the Jesuit, who spread this lie, because nothing can come from nothing. Yes, there was a Big Bang, but it came from everything that already was there in counter space in the transcendental realms. So this is how another depiction. It's a torus field. There's the hyperbola, the hourglass in the middle. The plane of inertia dissects this right through the center, and that's the planet of Earth. The Mayans say that that plane, they say that we live on an extended plane which is infinite. So there's more torus fields like Russian dolls nested in one another, expanding and expanding and expanding almost probably forever. No one knows. So Captain George Hubert Wilkins, a colleague of Admiral Byrd, a Tasmanian explorer, he said he went 5,000 miles past Antarctica and discovered many lands there. So we know of at least 5,000 miles, but as for infinite, I don't know. I really don't. But here we have the blue shift, red shift universe, and these two basically what Walter Russell calls these two vortices. He calls one radiation and the other one gravitation. Not gravity, gravitation. Redshift is radiation, radiation, right-turning light. Blue shift is gravitation, and blue shift goes in at the North Pole, and that's where you have your auroras because of that blue shift dense gravitational blue shift energy. There's an atom. That's how they always are, the plane of inertia in the middle. This is how some people describe the Earth being in the center. I'm going to show how that is scientifically possible. And here we have a French version. Here we have some more transcendental occult type planes of inertia. And there's the hyperbola in the middle. Here is Srimad Bhagavatam, and it talks about the hollow earth under the Bhumandala. This is Mount Meru in the middle, magnetic mountain. Polaris is at the top, where Brahma is. And below are the 7 subterranean heavenly planes, which are called Atala, Vitala, Putala, Mahatala, Visatala, etc. So, and you'll find that the word Atlantis is in Atala. So if you're thinking about what's sunk below the earth, it's probably this, although that's not what I'm inferring. I'm not saying that that's how it works. And this is how they have it. The sun is traveling clockwise. All the planets are around over the earth, although their trajectory yearly is counterclockwise. And being an astrologer, I know how that works because astrology is geocentric, still based on the tropical Ptolemaic system, which supposedly Copernicus debunked in 1542. And 2 years prior to that, that's when the Jesuits were formed, and they started their global agenda, global warming, global community, global economy, global governance, global lockdowns, global, etc., etc., etc. The Nordics, this is the Yggdrasil tree, Mount Meru in the middle, and they always said that we lived inside a sphere, and the plane of inertia is the Midgard, the middle garden, which corresponds to your heart. Heart and earth are the same word. They're anagrams of each other. And longitudinally, horizontally, your heart is emanating radial waves, magnetism. Your brain and your liver are both producing thought waves and emotion waves, respectively, and they are vibratory electrical waves, whereas the heart is magnetic. It radiates. There's how it is. All is atum. This is the mesocosm, the human being. The plane of inertia goes straight through your heart. You cannot see that. It is because it's not yet materialized in this present time. Here is another way of looking at it. There is another way. There's the stars. The Greeks said the stars are nailed to the firmament like nails. Pierluigi Gina says that the stars are holes in the sky. They are wormholes, and he insists that the Earth is stationary. And I'm going to show you his experiment in a minute where he proves it with strobe lights. He worked with Marconi for 10 years, and they both figured out that the Earth is stationary. So there's the Mayans, infinite, endless plane. So I just want you to know that that's the model I'm going to be using. It's the astrological Ptolemaic model, which has been around for millions of years. And every single culture in history has pretty much a similar. The Hebrews, they say there are 3 planes under the hollow earth, whereas in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, they specifically say 7. So let me move on. Here is, well, first of all, I wanted to address the issue of seeing Venus and Mercury in the night sky. This is pretty much the model of Copernicus. The Earth is here and Venus is on the inside. So at night, when we're facing away from the sun, if the Earth is here, for instance, and Venus is on the inside, if we have a scenario like this where Venus has an epicycle and Mercury, both of those have epicycles around the sun, whereas Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter have their own cycles. At night, we are looking to the left here. We would have to look through hundreds of miles of curvature to see Venus, and yet we see it sometimes before the sun sets at 70 degrees high in the sky, so it's almost up here. So that's sort of a conundrum for, I don't know how Copernicans explain that, but I'm happy to receive an explanation for that, because I'm not here to, necessarily close my mind to anything. Anything's possible, The universe was created by a very, very intelligent source creator, and he can do anything. He can make a ball fly in space, he can make a flat earth, he can do whatever he wants, or she, which I call Krishna and Radharani, which is black light and white light, yin and yang, dielectricity and magnetism. So here are the 4 motions. Rotation is 1,000 miles an hour, orbit is 666 miles, Mach 86 around the sun. Surely you'd feel a little bit of wobbling, I think, with that orbit, definitely. The sun orbiting Milky Way galaxy at 550 miles an hour, Mach 716, but this is the big one. We are being displaced at 650 miles every single hour of history, and yet no brighter stars come into our view. None get dimmer behind us where we are running away from, and there's no parallax ever been recorded. There's no distortion in the signs. Aries still looks like it used to 450,000 years ago, and the Dendera stone proves that, because they're still circling over the Earth. NASA will give you images like this. One year they'll tell you America's about this big. Next year they'll say, nah, let's put it about this big. So you can see they're actually playing with people, and none of these photos, these are all CGI images. There is not one photo of the Earth and as a ball. So moving on, here's Eric Dubay's video. I'm not going to play this because I don't have time, but for all the people who are interested, the Venus and Mercury conundrum, Mercury and Venus at night. Sorry, Eric Dubay, Mercury and Venus at night debunk heliocentrism. So I'm going to get out of that and move on, because this is the model I'm using, the apple. This is done by X-rays. There's the core. The apple core is the corazon, your heart. So the plane of inertia intersects that. We're going to see that in a minute by looking at some other scientists. Here we have what the ancients taught, the Incas. Mount Meru is always in the middle. This is a bit slow. Let's go faster. I don't have time. The Mayans. I spoke to a Mayan elder the other day. He told me about the infinite plane. The Navajos, the Norse people, we just saw that. Celtics, Egyptians, that's Maat, the Queen of Heaven. She's the firmament with the stars in her, embedded in her. The Hindus, the tortoise, by the way, no need to laugh at that tortoise. The tortoise is a torus field. Santos,
just to let you know, you've got extra time. I'm dropping the water segment which was going to come after this. I'm going to extend this panel because this is too important. So you've got a bit more time than you thought. Just take your time, and then we're going to bring the full panel in, okay?
Oh, thanks, brother, because I'm racing. I'm sounding like a lunatic. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Okay. So Sheol, being a Jehovah's Witness for 30 years of my life, I learned a lot about Sheol. Oh, you're going to go to Sheol if you don't do the good thing. But there you go. This is called Hades. The Greeks call it Hades, the plains under the earth, the hollow earth. And then in Latin, it is infer or infernal. Oh, by the way, let's have a look at that word there, rakia. Rakia is the Hebrew word for firmament. The stars are embedded, as it says here, in the firmament. And then above that is the realm of God, the waters above, the crystalline sea. And, of course, Ptolemy mentions this firmament as the 8th sphere. Then the 9th sphere is the crystalline waters, also mentioned in the Bible. Then the 10th sphere, which equates to the Jewish 10 Sephiroth, is called the primum mobile, the first motion. And that would be probably, if you're talking in globe terms, Copernican terms, it's probably what I would think would be the either something like the ionosphere or the Kuiper belt or the Van Allen belt or one of those spheres. They always make reference to spheres and belts. Well, in fact, they're talking about toroidal fields, you know, and some of them have crystallized and become firm. This is what I believe.
Is the satanic.
This is what I believe is a psyop. I'm happy for you guys to disagree. That's fine, but I know that the Jesuits convened the Council of Trent in 1545, which lasted 20 years. And from there, Jesuits like Matteo Ricci, I think that's his name, went to China, Japan, all around the world and co-opted their universities and schools and brought this theory in. Then they brought in Galileo Galilei because no one was buying it. And then they had to bring in Newton and his theory of gravity. Walter Russell had it right. It's gravitation, and gravity is still a theory. So it's never been upgraded. Just like germ theory, we know it's a hoax. You can't catch germs, nor can you catch viruses. And they'll never upgrade it because that's simply just a fact. So let me go to, so we want to go to, let's have a look at our good friend Hillary Clinton and see what she has to say about the glass ceiling that's above us.
The highest, hardest stained glass ceiling.
As a molten looking.
I guess I'm up against.
Hast thou with him spread out the sky, which is strong as a molten looking glass? What does that mean, a molten looking glass?
I guess I'm up against the highest, hardest stained glass ceiling.
See this guy here with the Knights of Malta cross on him? These guys are Jesuits. This guy's a Jesuit. This is a Jesuit. They're all Jesuits, and they're all globalists. And we know who our enemies are, the globalists.
Oh, I guess I'm up against the highest, hardest stained glass ceiling.
And it may be hard to see tonight, but we are all standing under a glass ceiling right now.
It's fine for all this talk about me running to break the big hard glass ceiling.
Although we weren't able.
To shatter that highest, hardest glass ceiling this time, thanks to you.
It's got about 18 million cracks in it. And the light is shining through like never before.
All right, I just want to go to another point in this to show how the firmament works. We're going to look at 36. Sorry about this, guys. You can see here rockets being smashed into the firmament at about 90 miles above our heads. In fact, it's 98 miles, the firmament. You can see it looks like it's pushing through water. This is a rocket. It's not going through into space. Can't go to space. We're going to see that in a minute. Bill Nye is going to teach us all about how we are in a closed system and we can never leave Earth as in bodies. We can go to the moon as a rishi because the moon is a luminous body. It is not a rock. And so you can't go to the moon with human bodies, but you can go as a rishi, or you can go to Mars, you can go to the sun. There are people living there right now. So I'll get to that later. Let's go forward a bit. There it is, scraping along the dome and causing waves behind it. Just like that. Let's go forward. But there's the name of the video, What on Earth Happened, Part 8, Ewaran Reupload, on this channel here. So you can look at that if you want to. Did I show you the other one? No, I didn't. Never mind. I was racing so fast. But there you go. You can see what's going on there with the firmament. We're going to have a look in a minute a bit more closer to that. 42, 42, 42, 42. Let's have a look at a comet in slow time, in time lapse.
Per hour. But look closer. Can you not see it? It is a large opening in the firmament.
Okay, let's go back a bit more.
Tell us again. Here is time-lapse footage of the recent comet, Neowise.
Time-lapse footage, guys. You see that the comet is in the firmament?
As you can see, the comet is not actually moving in its own path. It is fixed in its area on the firmament and moving in conjunction with the rest of the stars. There is no traveling comet journeying at 100,000 miles per hour. But look closer. Can you not see it? It is a large opening in the firmament, casting a ray of light from whatever exists behind.
That is a porthole, guys. They're all portholes. The sun is a hole. It's a wormhole. The moon is a hole. The Neoplatonists taught that souls come through the moon's porthole and they leave the earth and incarnation cycles of necessity through the sun. The sun is Jesus Christ, the Savior. No one goes to the Father except through me. So as you can see the firmament. These stars will always be there in their positions forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever because the earth is simply not moving. And we're going to see the scientific experiments that have proven that conclusive. Here is Dance of the Hebrew Letters by Stan Tenen. Just have a look at this a minute.
Regions. From here to here would be a hand. And of course, there'd be three hands as I go around. Show it from here. There's three hand-shaped sections.
Remember the apple. We live in a big apple. That's why they say it's a big apple. Apple is Apollo. Remember what the name of the rockets were? Apollo 13, because they know that we live inside an apple.
And so there'd be 4 fingers in each one, the thumb in the middle. There'd be 12 fingers around the perimeter. And thus you have 12 tribes around the seed center, the star, the tabernacle, if you'd like. In other traditions, there are 12 apostles, there are 12 knights around the round table, there are 12 imams of Shia Islam, there are 12 houses to the zodiac. There are a whole number of 12 around 1 forms. And in the middle, of course, if we were to open it, this disc, I don't know if you can see that very well, but the disc is the flat earth. This is where, I'll put it inside, maybe you can see the hand in there. Put the hand inside.
So Dan Winter speaks about this spiral, phase conjugation thingy, and does it so well. And this is basically a cross section of a third of this apple. And he puts his thumb in the middle, and he says that this is the tree of life in the middle.
Hand in there. Put the hand inside. This disc becomes the earth. There's the sun. This is the heavens, the dome. And what we've got in our model, again, is a model hand. Now, why?
Okay, now with this hand, he goes and shows how he makes all the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Moving on. So here's Ken Wheeler explaining the plane of inertia. This is the torus magnet, which he has in his hand, and one below the viewing film, where he shows the torus field. The white light is magnetic divergent centrifugal. The black lines are dielectric centripetal convergent. And this is your phase conjugation, etc. So this is under a viewing film. Notice what he says about the plane of inertia.
Let's not get too complicated. In the reverse, we have increasing force and motion rather than, this is acceleration, this is increasing inertia, this is increasing potential. Increasing potential, the light comes all the way to the center and the field contracts. Here we have the plane of inertia, the dielectric inertial plane occurring between the two. Here we act.
Okay, let's move on because I've got another couple of videos. There's the title. You can check that yourself. I can send these to you, anyone who's interested. Here's another cruder one version.
I actually got a
you can see the hourglass hyperbola in the middle and the torus field on the outside.
Magnet, I've got a Sharpie marker drawn around the midpoint of the magnet. Here's, of course, North Pole. Here's the South Pole. This is just some simplex magnetic viewing film. What the geometry of the torus and hyperboloid? Let's try to explain the space and counter space. In simple, we've got a couple chalkboards. You've got to get serious when you need 2 miniature chalkboards. Here we can actually take a look at the magnet and put the magnetic viewing film on top of it. Here you can actually see the plane of inertia right here. Here's one pole, here's another pole. Of course, you know how it looks after hundreds and hundreds of videos. Underneath the supercell, magnet doesn't actually have poles. Well, sure it does. There's magnet has a north pole and a south pole. Well, if it did, it would be located there. And if it were located there, then you could cut this magnet in half and you'd have a north pole side and a south pole side, but it doesn't work that way because you could cut it a million times if it were possible. And each, of course, slice would have a quote north pole and a quote south pole. But a magnet,
let's
5
just
degrees, 45 degrees, 45 degrees, 45 degrees, 45, 45. Yeah, I think I made that simple. The plane of inertia right here. This is the inverse. This is the lowest pressure mediation. In other words, this is the calm from the storm, the shelter from the storm. Kind of make a simple analogy that people can understand. You know, some places on Earth have really radical, like they're really windy and they're really stormy, and you need to build a shelter. And you want the best place, which would be like in a natural ditch near a rock cliff, for example, like they have in some places in Ireland, where it's really, really windy. So you don't end up with bad storms and bad winds. This plane of inertia right here is the calm in the storm, analogously, where life exists, and life only exists along the plane of inertia. This is
in accordance with Pierluigi Gina as well, who said he and Marconi discovered the two energies, one of the ether, turning clockwise 15 degrees every hour, and the other of the stationary Earth. So I'm going to leave that for you guys. There's the channel, Theoria Apophasis, and you can see Ken Wheeler speaking ad nauseum about how life can only exist on the plane of inertia.
right here in my hand.
Now, where do we go here? Golden mean, number 3. Okay.
This right-hand rule of the maximum throw at which one can exist perpendicular to the centrifugal divergent flow of magnetism is the only place where life can exist. This is the golden section wherein which creation happens. It's the golden section. The Fibonacci. And this is also too, and I just got done making a video about time being polarized. And by the way, on any magnet, the time and let's see, all the mass and matter, i.e. creation, exists at the plane of inertia.
All right, and 11 minutes 41. Just quickly, here we go.
Relative to the convergent dielectric, which is, like about this, 45 degrees. Life only occurs right here. All life thrives and exists 90 degrees here, which is 90 degrees to the dielectric. There's also the maximum throw against both, which is the dielectric here, the magnetic at 45, which is of course you can actually measure this with the Gauss meter too. You actually put the Gauss meter towards the edge of a magnet. The maximum magnetic divergence occurs right at the edge.
All right, let's move on. Here I have a video that I made based on the work of David Lapointe, and his video is called Primer Fields, but mine on my channel, Mr. Astrotheology, is called Plain Earth is Scientific, Globe Earth is Not. Here is showing how Saturn is, because its axis is perpendicular to its equator here, this is starting to materialize, the 7 rings of Saturn. So he's showing an example.
Okay.
Planetarily.
Just building an argument here, or just with visuals, and then we'll come to the crux of the matter. 1703. Let's have a look at what we got there.
This is how he does the experiment in a laboratory.
The jets here of these galaxies.
There's how he shows the same thing. There's the hyperbola. This, if you think this is a galaxy, which it may be, I don't know, because in Srimad Bhagavatam it says that Vishnu, Krishna expands into Vishnu. Vishnu is the preserver. Brahma then is the creator, and he's made millions, infinite planes and solar systems to live in. This is not the only one. It really irritates me when religious people think that this is the only special place. And no, it is special, but there are millions. You just have to do comparative religious studies, and you'll find them in every book. Even in the Christian Greek scriptures, Jesus says, "In my Father's house there are many mansions."
Okay.
So macrocosm, there it is.
Very telling. There they are in the.
Let's go forward.
The glass in between the
Now
two
here
boxes.
he has interesting redshift, blue shift. He should have put the blue above and the red below, but never mind. This is positive, this is negative. What happens then, he's got this glass here, and he's got these steel balls making concentric rings, and this is how the Earth is formed between the two halves of any torus field. Along the plane of inertia equates to planet of Eartha.
What he's got is the positive on top, negative below, and he's got these ball bearings, these steel balls here. And you'll notice concentric rings around the center, okay?
Form the amazing arrays shown here. The only thing holding these balls in position are the magnetic fields emanating from these two balls. Could this truly be the way that atomic and
Their structures are properly explained? I believe so. Let's take a look at the forces at work in the nucleus area of these bowl-shaped magnetic fields. Shown here are ordinary non-magnetized 5mm steel balls. These bowl-shaped magnetic fields induce a magnetic field into each steel ball, which causes them to repel each other while at the same time keeping the balls structured together. So this mysterious force.
There we see the seed of life. You see the 1 surrounded by 6. Now we're going to see the flower of life, 19. There's going to be 12 surrounding.
Not only causes the steel balls to become packed tightly together, but it also keeps them apart. Then it does this while at the same time forming a geometrically balanced pattern, just as we find within atoms and molecules. Notice the vibration in all of the steel balls as each new ball is added to the nucleus area. What we see at work here.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Next one.
Is what I believe would truly be defined as the strong force.
There you go. That is the 19. 1 surrounded by 6, surrounded by 12. So you've got 7 in the middle and 12 on the outside. You have 7 Olympians, 12 Titans. You have 7 visible planets. You have 12 astrological signs. If we go back to Stan Tenen, you will learn all about this.
So what you can see here is the flower of life. In the center is the central ball.
Let's go forward a bit.
The fruit of life.
Forward. This is in liquid.
With the magnetic balls at all. Shape of
Now, what happens when he starts adding balls?
magnetic field emitters.
There you go.
Again, notice how even in the orbital area, these magnetic fields cause the steel balls to be packed tightly together, and yet at the same time, they repel each other.
Life can only exist on the plane of inertia. Physical life.
See, because which isn't hard not to look at your
Go
seed
forward.
I
I think that's about all I wanted to show you here. I showed you the
Even
time.
25 millimeter non-magnetized field around these magnetic fields with the same basic result.
Bigger balls. Go forward.
The red and blue bolts are
In
identical.
fact, if we were living on a globe, then it would be stationary, but it would be like this. So it's quite possible. And as I said before, anything is possible in this creation. Anything is, because magnetism is God, and magnetism is everywhere, omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. It is the source. It is, together with dielectricity, it is the ether, it is the field, and the field is conscious energy, is God.
In construction and magnetic strength.
All right, you can have a look at some of his other things he does here.
Red and blue bolt.
everything.
He's actually moving those bowls by moving these. See how he does that? Just by opening and shutting those bowls, he's moving. That's the field. That's the equator. You see the power of the equator? All right, let me go forward to see if there's anything else.
In the southern proud member.
This is
You go.
very small balls,
There's the dumbbells.
and you can see these lines.
See how those balls
Magnetic in between is dielectricity.
So-called lines of force. It's all torus fields. So this is ferrofluid. The balls, that's ferro, the earth.
There it is in ferro fluid, ferrous fluid.
Induced magnetic field of
This is the model I've always used, and probably inspired by watching Primerfields the first time.
I just want to go forward. Sorry about this, guys, because
And that's dark energy, or what they call black holes, everything black, dark matter, dark energy, black, dark. All of this is relating to the true source, the true life, God, ether.
This, let me say, the theory of Pierluigi Ghina, Italian scientist, which I will show, understanding of the two forces of work in galactic structures. There you go, the true forces of work in galactic structures. Pierluigi Ghina, energy do not exist at all. We made some fatal mistakes. Doesn't really want to go in there.
so here he is debunking. See, they're very clever, the quantum physicists. They use these words: dark energy, black holes, dark matter, black dark, black dark, black dark. That's dielectricity, folks. Everything comes from source light, which is black light. That's why you have a black Madonna, a black Jesus, etc. Krishna is black. He's black and blue, which is blue shift, but he always predominantly is black, and Radharani is white or golden. It's speaking about this. So with his little device here,
They didn't get it to where it's a balance point, so it doesn't take any energy. But once you push it past that balance point,
so what he did, he just had a ball inside that, and he popped it through, and it smashed those three containers off the table. So you can have a look at that. I'll move on. Here's Pierluigi Ghina proving in his laboratory that the ether is moving at 15 degrees an hour and the earth is stationary. It's in Italian, so just take this down, guys. Anyone who's interested, there's the channel. I'm going to get rid of that, and then I'm going to go to the video I made of Pierluigi Ghina, and it's a 35-minute video. Earth is stationary. That's the words of Pierluigi Ghina. This is how you spell his name. Italian genius who died in 2004 and was as famous in Italy for saying the earth does not move. And he's been on the front of papers everywhere and being ridiculed, of course, but he proves it in this. If you watch this video, you will see how he proves it. Okay, moving on.
system.
Can we go to the moon?
We cannot leave the Earth. I really want your generation to embrace is that the Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth. There's no place to go. The Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth. We cannot leave the Earth.
We cannot leave the Earth.
So this rocket tried to leave the Earth, and let's see what happens when it gets to about 70 or whatever miles. There's the Earth below. Bang! It hits something and stops. Bang! There's the Earth below. All right, so Bill Nye, the Earth is a closed system. Thank you, Bill Nye. And here we have satellites. One was found with a balloon attached to it that landed in Mexico a few years ago. They're called satelloons. Satellites are up there, but they're up there with balloons. Rest assured, they're not in the thermosphere where it's 4,000 degrees Celsius, and this aluminium and all of these little bits of paper that they made these machines with will just burn right up. So you can't go to 400 miles. It's a closed system, and they have satelloons. So good luck on going to the moon when it's a new moon, because this is something that no one has ever been able to answer. Why does the moon disappear for 60 days every month? It totally disappears. If it were a rock passing in front of the sun, which it does every month, we would see a moon or a silhouette of a rock passing in front of the sun. And yet, whenever it gets within 15 degrees of the sun, as the ancient Jyotish and Western astrologers said, all luminous bodies that come within 15 degrees of the sun are burnt by the sun, or are called what's known as under the rays of the sun, and become invisible. Because the moon is a luminous body. And we know that it's not a sphere, because otherwise all of its, at the full moon, all of its 180 degrees of light will not be reflecting back to us. Only a little square little patch that is in direct line with our eyes would be seen reflecting, and the rest would be silhouetted. And yet we see the whole thing is glowing, which shows that it is a wormhole, or as the Egyptians said, they are discs. There's your satelloon. The dome, Encyclopedia Britannica.
I showed you the maps that were here on Earth before 1958, before the governments took them out. And I'm going to show you the Encyclopedia Britannicas in the public libraries before 1958. Here's volume 2 out of the alphabet A. We're going to flip to the Antarctica, and this is from 1958, as you can see. Now, we're going to flip to the Antarctica and see what the Encyclopedia Britannica from 1958, before the Antarctic Treaty, says is there. Now, you won't find this in the new encyclopedias because the government's banned them. But what I want you to notice right here is, notice how it says the flights proved inland areas to be featureless in character with a dome 13,000 feet high at about latitude 80 degrees south longitude. Take a really close look at that. Now I'm going to zoom in for you. When they returned to New Zealand, these flights proved the inland areas to be features of the character with a dome 13,000 feet high at about latitude 80 degrees south, longitude 90 degrees east. Now, if this doesn't make sense to you, let me show you with an image of what a flat Earth map would look like. Now, this is what a latitude 80 degrees south would look like on a flat Earth map. As you can see, the dome comes down closer to you over the wall, which will be about 13,000 feet. Now, if you go back out into the center of the Earth, or up the North Pole, and try to go up to the firmament with a little bit of calculation. It's going to show that it's about 385,500 feet away. It's really, really simple, folks. They're just now new to all this. You can say, well, this guy's crazy. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But what you got to ask yourself is, why do all the maps before 1958 show a flat Earth with the ice ball around it and a firmament, a dome? And why does the encyclopedia tell you that there's a dome there, and it gives you the exact height at a certain latitude and longitude? Well, the reason is because in 1958, that's when all governments and all nations of the world signed the UN treaty to ban all civilians from going to the Antarctica. And NASA came in and erased everything, just like they're erasing everything today. So again, ask yourself, if all this existed before 1958, why doesn't it exist now? How come it all of a sudden was erased and just disappeared out of your history books, out of your encyclopedias, out of your libraries? Wake up, people. Wake up.
I know the answer. I know the answer to that. It's called the global agenda. Here is in Hawaii, here is some lasers pointing, crossing lines before the firmament. When they hit the firmament, watch what happens. So you'll see that they're crossing. There you go. Whoops. Oh, can't cross. I wonder why. There you go. There it is. Hawaii laser hitting the firmament. God's flat Earth. Another one of these God people. Oh my. Ugh. I mean, I'm talking about the churchgoers, folks. I know that you all believe in the divine, but when you get these Christians that, oh, we're so special and this is the only place, and it just gives me the creeps. Here is the true causes of the eclipses. Real footage. This was, they went to Antarctica. I think this was a lunar eclipse. You can see this is what in Jyotish astrology they call Rahu or Ketu, the head of the dragon or the tail of the dragon, respectively, or the nodes of the moon. These bubbles
occurred, and again in July of the same year.
One of these bubbles caused the eclipse.
Reference there is the Daily Telegraph, July 16, 1870. The only explanation which has been carefully examining
there it is
found to be utterly inadequate.
Eclipse.
And those who have recourse to
what are those spheres?
Opposite.
Remember, in Srimad Bhagavatam and in the Puranas, it talks about Rahu's head being split into 7 pieces. It was, and so it's a headless dragon, but it's the North Node. This is the 2015 March 20th, 2015 eclipse. Guys, you can look at this yourself.
Refraction is bent upwards, but the shadow of any.
So there's a true cause of eclipses. Here's the sun. As you can see, the horizon is way behind the sun. This is taken from an aeroplane. So there's the sun. That is actually the horizon. It's very, very, very flat, thousands, and that's thousands of miles. When I flew from Melbourne to San Francisco, I looked out my left window at 45,000 feet high, and I saw the horizontal Earth at my eye level in the middle of the window. Then I looked to the right, out the right side window, and I saw the Earth in the middle of the window, horizontal. That just shouldn't happen at 45,000 feet high. It just shouldn't happen. So what is that? I don't know. That could be, and there's also, looks like something else in the background there. It could be photo trickery or could be an effect, but clearly you can see that the sun always turns up like this when you film it from an aeroplane. And especially there's a Facebook page called Pilot LX, who is an international commercial pilot. I interviewed him. His interview will be up soon on my channel, where he speaks about his training being done on a flat, non-rotating Earth. And you can go to his Facebook page and see hundreds of these videos where he shows the sun like this. Suez Canal, let's go for a real quick drive. This is on a ship, a container ship. The Suez Canal is 100% to the millimeter flat. Okay, I'm going to go fast speed because we don't have that much time. Speed her up. Here's the sound. You can see it's all flat. 120 miles. If the Earth were a globe, it would be constantly dry because the water would never reach it. If the Earth were concave, as some people say, it would be flooded and overflooded. So we just left the Red Sea and we're going to the Mediterranean Sea. And when they opened the Suez Canal, the engineers said the reason why it just filled it up perfectly to the level which we designed it to is because the Mediterranean is level with the Red Sea 500 miles away. Suez Canal alone is checkmate. It just couldn't exist on a globe. It's just totally impossible. And Mediterranean Sea, there you go, 16 hours later. And it's all flat, and you can see it's flat. It's pretty clear. There you go, you can check out that video. There's the name of it. Moving on. This is a guy, government documents admit flat Earth. Go to page 42, to the minute 42, because this guy talks about God like you wouldn't believe. He's such a churchgoer, and it's all about God this and God that, and it's boring. So if you go up to here, you see where
17 November, last November.
Quoting NASA, but what I'm going to do is get out of this and go to one that Richie from Boston put together, and we'll just quickly grab some of those.
Used. One of these was a visual photometer of the daytime sky intended for measuring the brightness of the firmament. Interesting. Trying to figure out the brightness of the firmament. Again, 1957. The dissertation contains a certain formula of the brightness of the sky, taking into consideration only the brightness of the first order, and derived, get this now, on the assumption of a flat Earth, and giving some conclusions derived on the basis of this formula. So the Russians are trying to check out the firmament based on assumptions of a flat Earth in 1957? Very interesting, huh? All right, let's see what NASA has to say.
NASA.
Looking at this ntrs.nasa.gov document here, dated April 17th, 1961. Go back to Acrobat, looking at this document from 1961. And it says, a trajectory simulation incorporating the above requirements is represented in Figure 8. In addition to the above requirements, this simulation assumes a vehicle with 6 degrees of freedom and aerodynamic symmetry in roll, and the missile position in space is computed relative to a flat, non-rotating Earth. So they're checking out missile position in space computed relative to a flat, non-rotating Earth. Why would you do that? If the Earth is a rotating ball, 25,000 miles in circumference, why would you do your computations based on a non-rotating flat Earth? You can tell me that this simplifies the math? I mean, we are actually dealing with rocket scientists here. So math's not a problem for these people. All right, let's see what else we can find. That was April 1961. This is nasa.gov again, June 1971. So let's look at that one. June 1971, a method for reducing the sensitivity of optimal nonlinear systems to parameter uncertainty. Whatever that means. And get down to page 12 here. And it says, a numerical example problem statement. The example problem is a fixed time problem in which it is required to determine the thrust attitude program of a single stage rocket vehicle starting from rest and going to specified thermal conditions of altitude and vertical velocity, which will maximize the final horizontal velocity. The idealizing assumptions made are the following. Number one, a point mass vehicle. Number two, of the idealized assumptions that are being made for this example is a flat, non-rotating Earth. NASA making idealized assumptions based on a flat, non-rotating Earth? What's going on here? Let's continue. Here we have another NASA.gov document dated March 1972. March 1972, NASA Technical Memorandum, determination of angles of attack and side slip from radar data and a roll stabilized platform. I love the titles, huh? Okay, abstract. Equations for angles of attack and side slip relative to both a rolling and non-rolling body access system are derived for a flight vehicle for which radar and gyroscopic attitude data are available. The method is limited, however, to application where a flat, non-rotating Earth may be assumed. All right, let's continue. That was 1972, the end of the, or right around the end of the Apollo program. So we go to NASA again, nasa.gov, December 1978. Investigation of aircraft landing in variable wind fields. Equations of motion. This comes up a lot. The two-dimensional model for aircraft motion presented in this section follows the general form developed by Frost. It accounts for both vertical and horizontal mean wind components having both time and spatial variations. The aircraft trajectory model employed in this study was derived based on the following assumptions. Number one, the Earth is flat and not rotating. That's the number one assumption. So we're going to see this over and over and over again regarding the equations of motion. They're always using it on a flat, non-rotating Earth model. It doesn't make sense if you're developing aircraft and missiles and things like that to go over a rotating ball. Why would you start off with the assumption of a non-rotating flat Earth if the real world application?
Exactly, it's what I say. Why would you train your child with square training wheels on it to ride a push bike? Because normally wheels are round, and then when he graduates from learning how to ride the bike with square wheels, then you say, hey dude, wheels are round, so now you can, you're ready to, you're fully trained. It doesn't make sense.
Is over a spinning ball. 1987 NASA technical paper, 2768, User's Manual for Linear, a Fortran program to derive linear aircraft models. Get that in Acrobat here, same document. And let's go on to, I believe it was page 12 again. Program overview. Within the program, the nonlinear equations of motion include 12 states representing a rigid aircraft flying in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. More diagrams, more equations. The nonlinear equations of motion used in the linearization program are general 6-degree of freedom equations representing the flight dynamics of a rigid aircraft flying in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Let's continue. That was 1987. NASA.gov, May 1988. Flight testing. Flight testing a VSOL aircraft to identify a full envelope aerodynamic model. June 27, 1988. Day after my birthday. Page 4 of their document. For aircraft problems, the state of measurement models together represent the kinematics of a rigid body for describing motion over a flat, non-rotating Earth. All right. NASA.gov, December 1991. Aircraft model for the AIAA Controls Design Challenge. On page 11, once again, you have the equations of motion and atmospheric model. The nonlinear equations of motion used in this model are general 6-degree of freedom equations representing the flight dynamics of a rigid aircraft flying in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. You guys start to see a pattern here? NASA.gov, June 1997. talking about the SR-71. Predicted performance of a thrust-enhanced SR-71 aircraft with an external payload. One of my favorite aircraft of all time. It's a cool looking airplane, huh? Let's see what they have to say about a back-mounted hypersonic research vehicle sitting on top of the SR-71. That's pretty crazy. Pretty cool interior shot right here. And on page 8, digital performance simulation description. The digital performance simulation equations of motion use 4 assumptions that simplify the program while maintaining its fidelity for most maneuvers and applications. Number 1, point mass modeling. 2, non-turbulent atmosphere. 3, zero side forces. And 4, a non-rotating Earth. Now, they don't specify flat here, but they're saying the Earth's not rotating as part of their 4 assumptions that simplify the program while maintaining its fidelity. So they're discrediting the rotating Earth right here. At least by that statement, it would appear. Moving right along, we come to another NASA document. I wasn't able to figure out what year this was from, but it's definitely a NASA document here. I'm guessing sometime around 1997, or sometime shortly thereafter, as the footnotes indicate anyway. There are footnotes that go to 1997. They're not going later than that. Singular arc optimal control. Our minimum time to climb problem. In our minimum time to climb problem, the aircraft is modeled as a point mass, and the flight trajectory is strictly confined in a vertical plane on a non-rotating flat Earth. And we'll just fast forward to the end here. See, that's the dates there. The latest one is 1997, so that's where I came to that conclusion. 2000, Army Research Laboratory. This is arl.army.mil document here. Path loss measurements in a forested environment at VHF. Check that one out.
This is not NASA.
Under data analysis on page 10 of their document here, multipath data. In this section, we discuss the data for the measurements described in section 2.2, figure 9, plots the transmission loss as a function of transmit antenna height for 145, 223, 300, 435, and 14.
Santos, just to let you know, we're really out of time now. We've got to bring the panel back.
Polarization propagation down, if you would.
No problem. No problem at all. Can I finish with one thing?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So there's many more. There's other documents. There's training manuals for pilots. They're all based on non-rotating flat Earth. And here we have a guy who's just flying over Kansas City, and he's got an infrared filter on his camera, and he's showing 1,200 miles of flat Earth, all the way to Hudson Bay. There's the Mississippi and the Missouri. I'll finish with this. I've got lots more goodies. There's already a couple of 100 miles. So where's the curvature? You can see the river's going up. It's ramping up to the horizon. It should be curving. It's all flat. You can see with your eyes the geometry of flatness. It's flat. There's Lake Michigan. From Kansas City, it's all flat, 100% flat. In fact, you can see there's a point there in, I think it's near Alabama, where you can see 7 states with your own eyes, without binoculars. 7 flat states in the US. And in Bolivia, they have 4,000 miles of Salt Lake flat. 4,000 square miles of flat lake. As he zooms in, you can see the detail that he gets right up the back. Pay attention to the horizon, guys. Anyway, so he shows how much curve there should be. That's what he captured. It's all flat. All right, there it is. There's J. Tolan Media 1. I'm out. Thank you.
Here we are. Great stuff. Thank you. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.